They didn't build these cars for comfort. They built them to win. The 1960s gave us some of the fastest, rawest, most aggressive machines ever put on American roads. Because the real war back then wasn't just on the track, it was the quarter mile. Fueled by the rising stakes of drag racing, automakers pushed the limits, cranking out cars designed to do one thing: dominate in a straight line. These are the 12 fastest muscle cars of the 1960s, ranked by quarter mile time. And number one, you won't see it coming. 1968 Dodge Dart GTS 440. Small car, massive engine. The Dart GTS 440 was Dodge's unexpected gem of 1968, a compact muscle car packed with a 440 cubic inch V8 under the hood. This powerhouse cranked out 375 horsepower and a staggering 480 pound-feet of torque. With its lightweight frame and no-frills design, the Dart GTS was all about one thing: winning at the drag strip. And it didn't disappoint. Clocking the quarter mile in 13.7 seconds and zipping from 0 to 60 in just 5.3 seconds. Dodge didn't make many of these beasts, making them a rare find today. But back in the day, this straightforward machine could easily hold its own against much pricier archival. 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona. The Daytona was engineered to rule NASCAR, but it was no slouch on the drag strip either. Fueled by the iconic 426 Hemi V8 that churned out 425 horsepower, the Charger Daytona could hit 60 in 5.4 seconds and storm through the quarter in 13.7. But what really made it stand out was its striking design. That massive rear wing and pointed nose weren't just for looks. They were wind tunnel tested to cut down drag and boost high-speed stability. With a top speed of 200 miles an hour, the Daytona was a testament to 60s engineering and a clear sign. 1969 Oldsmobile Hearst 442. Oldsmobile's answer to the horsepower wars came in the form of the Hearst 442. This wasn't your average boulevard cruiser. Under the hood was a 455 cubic inch V8, pushing 390 horsepower and a pavement-warping 500 pound-foot of torque. But what really made it special was the partnership with Hearst Performance, which fine-tuned the transmission, added a 3.23 limited slip rear end, and gave it that signature white and gold paint job. Result? A quarter mile time of 13.7 seconds. And one of the prettiest performance cars of the decade. 1969 Ford Mustang Boss 429. This wasn't just a Mustang, it was a weapon built for NASCAR. Ford needed to homologate its new 429 semi-Hemi engine, and the Boss 429 was the street version. It packed 375 horsepower, but was famously underrated. Real-world output often crept past 500 horses. Wide front fenders, a massive functional hood scoop, and hand-built engine bays gave the Boss a menacing stance. Quarter mile time, 13.6 seconds. But its legacy? Untouchable. 1969 Chevrolet Corvette L88. You don't get more serious than the L88. Chevy's L88 Corvette was barely street legal. It featured a 427 cubic inch V8 rated at 430 horsepower, but actual output often exceeded 500. It came with no radio, no heater, and barely any creature comforts. Why? Because it was built for one thing: racing. With high compression pistons, an aluminum intake, and a stripped-down chassis, the L88 ran the quarter in 13.56 seconds and hit 60 in 4.2. It was raw, loud, and absolutely unforgiving, just the way a muscle car should be. 1969 Plymouth GTX Hemi. the gentleman's muscle car. The GTX took the heart of a drag racer and wrapped it in a suit. Under the hood, the 426 Hemi V8 with 425 horsepower and a thunderous 490 pound-feet of torque. But inside, wood grain trim, bucket seats, and a touch of refinement. Still, don't let the polish fool you. The GTX was built to move. It hit the quarter mile in 13.5 seconds and shared much of its performance DNA with the Roadrunner and Charger Hemi cars. But today, it actually commands more value than both, thanks to its rare mix of luxury and lunacy. 1969 Dodge Charger RT Hemi. The Charger RT was the street version of a monster. Under the hood, the 426N Hemi delivered 425 horsepower and 490 pound-feet of torque, paired with a beefed-up Dana 60 rear axle and a limited slip differential. That setup launched it down the quarter mile in 13.5 seconds and gave it a top speed of 150 miles per hour. But this car wasn't just fast, it was a cultural icon, immortalized on both drag strips and movie screens. 1969 Plymouth Roadrunner 426 Hemi. This was muscle, stripped to its essentials. Plymouth's Roadrunner Hemi didn't bother with luxury. It had a steel body, vinyl seats, and a beep-beep horn. But beneath the bare-bones frame was a 426 Hemi that pushed out 425 horsepower with a functional air grabber hood scoop and a laser focus on speed. The Roadrunner tore through the quarter mile in 13.32 seconds and hit 60 in just 5.1. Affordable, fast, and unforgettable. 1969 Chevrolet Camaro ZL1. Only 69 were ever built, but the legend of the ZL1 Camaro still echoes loud. Under its hood sat an all-aluminum 427 cubic inch V8, developed for Can-Am racing. Rated at 430 horsepower, many believe it secretly pushed over 500. The lightweight engine dropped pounds from the front end, improving handling and acceleration. This thing was pure function, stickier tires, heavy-duty suspension, and a limited slip rear. It hit 60 in 5.3 seconds and clocked a 13.16-second quarter mile. Rare, powerful, and born to race, the ZL1 remains one of the most collectible muscle cars ever built. 1969 Plymouth Roadrunner A12. The A12 was the Roadrunner on steroids. Plymouth dropped in a six-pack 440 cubic inch engine with triple two-barrel carbs, pushing out 390 horsepower. It borrowed parts from the Hemi, added a 4.10 rear gear, Goodyear drag tires, and a fiberglass lift-off hood with a gaping scoop. This car was no frills and all business. Minimal interior, steel wheels, loud and proud. Depending on the source, it ran the quarter mile in either 13.0 or 13.88 seconds. But even at the slower time, it still torched most competitors and did it at a lower price. A muscle car built to punch above its class. 1966 Shelby Cobra 427 Super Snake. The Super Snake wasn't just fast, it was ferocious. Powered by a twin supercharged 427 V8, it produced an estimated 800 horsepower. That's not a typo. Carroll Shelby took his already legendary Cobra and turned it into a street-legal missile. Lightweight chassis, side pipes, a power-to-weight ratio that made grown men sweat. Only two were ever made, making this one of the rarest muscle cars of all time. But on the strip, it was unbeatable, running the quarter mile in just 11 seconds flat and hitting 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds. In the 60s, think about that. 1968 Plymouth Barracuda 426 Hemi. The 1968 Hemi Barracuda was never meant to be street-friendly. It was a factory-built drag car, engineered specifically for NHRA Super Stock competition. Under the hood sat the legendary 426 Hemi, officially rated at 425 horsepower but widely known to produce far more. The body was stripped down to the essentials: fiberglass hood, lightweight steel panels, and barely any creature comforts, just raw performance. The result? A jaw-dropping 10.5-second quarter mile. That's quicker than many modern supercars, and this was the 1960s. Only a handful were ever built, and even fewer survive. But in terms of straight-line speed, no other 60s muscle car touches it. This was the fastest of its generation, period. The 1960s were a decade of brute force and unfiltered horsepower, when automakers were willing to throw every ounce of engineering at one goal: quarter-mile supremacy. Some did it with elegance, others with chaos. But all 12 of these machines left their mark in rubber. And while names like Camaro, Charger, and Roadrunner still live on, the '68 Hemi Barracuda stands alone at the top of the list. But quarter-mile times were just part of the story. Want to see which muscle cars ruled the streets, not just the strip? Click over here to watch the next video.